The night was heavy with silence, broken only by the grinding sound of tires against the cracked asphalt. A battered old car slowed under the dim glow of a flickering streetlight, the kind that hummed like a dying insect in the dark. Inside the car, the air reeked of stale smoke and resentment, and then came the heartless act. The door swung open, and a loyal dog was shoved onto the cold ground, its paws scraping against gravel. It whimpered, confused, as the car's engine roared back to life, carrying away the only family it had known. The headlights vanished into the blackness, leaving behind nothing but a choking trail of fumes. The dog lifted its head, eyes wide, searching the void for answers. Hunger knotted its belly, but the greater pain was in its heart as loyalty was betrayed. Shadows stretched across the deserted road, whispering of loneliness and danger. The dog barked once, a desperate cry swallowed by the night, as if asking, "Why?" The world did not answer, only the wind against its scarred fur. Alone, it staggered to its feet, trembling yet determined, unaware this night would mark the beginning of its destiny. The silence that followed felt heavier than chains, pressing on the dog's spirit. It limped forward, nose low to the ground, trying to catch a scent of the family that had vanished into the night. Hunger gnawed at its belly, but the ache of abandonment struck harder. The road stretched endlessly, yet every step echoed emptiness. A chill wind swept through, carrying faint whispers of leaves scraping against asphalt. The dog paused, ears twitching, as if listening for a voice, a call, any sign that this was all a mistake. But there was only silence. Its eyes, clouded with pain, searched the horizon, clinging to hope where none remained. It lowered its head, trudging forward into the darkness, unaware of the dangers waiting beyond the road. This was the first night it would face truly alone. Night deepened, and the air grew sharper, cutting into the dog's thin, worn coat. Its paws throbbed, scraped raw from the gravel. The road seemed endless, stretching into shadows that never ended. Fear coiled in its chest, but loyalty's echo kept it moving. It remembered warm voices, gentle touches, now ghosts fading in the wind. Hunger twisted inside, and its stomach growled loudly, a hollow cry that vanished into the empty night. The dog stumbled near the roadside, collapsing onto dry weeds, chest heaving. Its eyes closed briefly, but the sound of a distant howl jolted them open. The wilderness stirred, and danger lurked unseen. It pushed itself up, forcing tired legs to move again. Survival was no longer just a choice, it was a demand from the night. The silence of the highway gave way to strange sounds. Twigs cracked in the nearby woods, and unseen eyes followed each of the dog's movements. Its ears perked, body stiffening, instincts alert. The night was no longer empty, it was alive, and not with kindness. The dog stood frozen, scarred muzzle twitching as it sniffed the cold air. The scent of danger was sharp, primal, undeniable. A rustle of movement echoed, then vanished, leaving dread behind. Shadows seemed to move on their own, twisting into shapes of threat. The dog lowered itself, ready to defend, though exhaustion weighed heavy. Loyalty to survival had now become its shield, and though alone, it braced itself against the dark. Though fear clung to its body like a shadow, the dog refused to yield. It raised its head and stepped forward, its paws steadying with each movement. Betrayal had left it broken, but courage kept it alive. It no longer searched the road for the car or the family who left. It searched for survival, for purpose. The cold wind tore at its scarred fur, but in its eyes burned something stronger than pain: resilience. Every scar told a story, every step a vow. The night could strip away warmth, food, and comfort, but it could not take away its spirit. As it moved deeper into the unknown, the journey of the protector truly began. Dawn crept slowly across the horizon, pale light spilling over the abandoned road. The dog walked carefully, its paws aching from the night's journey, yet its spirit urged it forward. Hunger gnawed, but hope flickered faintly. A rustle of wind stirred leaves as the animal paused, lifting its head. Its eyes shimmered with longing, reflecting the first rays of morning. A distant bird sang, reminding it of days when warmth and kindness had once filled its world. It closed its eyes briefly, imagining voices calling its name, hands reaching out to pet its scarred head. Those memories burned brighter than the pain. Each step became a promise not to give up, even when loneliness pressed down like a weight. The rising sun turned the horizon gold, painting the world with a fragile reminder. There was still something worth living for. The dog's steps carried it into the edge of a small town. The world around was waking, doors creaking open, voices murmuring faintly. But no eyes turned its way. The animal moved cautiously, nose low, searching for scraps near an overflowing trash bin. Hunger gnawed sharper than ever, ribs visible beneath patchy fur. A child's laugh rang out nearby, and for a moment the dog froze, ears rising. It remembered playing once, chasing balls, running freely without fear. The memory cut deep. It whimpered softly, unseen, as people passed by without care. The dog lowered its head again, retreating into shadow. Abandoned once, it feared hope might betray it again. Yet still, its heart yearned for a hand of kindness to find it. From the corner of the street a figure paused. It was a woman, her face lined with fatigue, yet softened by empathy. She carried a small bag of groceries, pausing when she noticed the dog crouched low. Her eyes lingered on the scarred muzzle, the trembling frame. The dog lifted its head warily, distrust clouding its gaze. Memories of harsh voices told it not to trust again, yet her expression held no cruelty. The woman spoke softly, words carried by morning breeze, gentle and warm. The dog flinched at the sound, body tensing, ready to flee. But something in her tone stopped it. For the first time since the night of betrayal, the animal felt seen, not as a burden, but as a soul yearning for care. The dog hesitated, its body trembling between fear and curiosity. Emma crouched slowly, placing the grocery bag down, her hand extended but not reaching too far. "It's all right," she said softly, her voice like balm against the morning's chill. The dog's ears twitched, nose lifting faintly, catching the scent of bread. Hunger warred with mistrust inside its chest. "Aye." It shuffled closer, then froze, eyes darting nervously. Emma didn't move further, letting silence speak her patience. The moment stretched, fragile as glass. For the first time, kindness lingered near enough to touch. The dog's body lowered, testing the ground between trust and retreat, its scarred muzzle brushing the air for courage. Before courage could take root, a faint sound broke the fragile moment. From behind a dumpster, another figure emerged, a smaller animal, fragile and trembling. Its fur was tangled, body thin, eyes wide with fear. The larger dog turned instantly, protective instinct awakening in its chest. It placed itself between Emma and the smaller creature, body stiff and alert. Emma's eyes widened, seeing both pain and loyalty in the scarred guardian. She whispered gently, "You're not alone, are you?" The smaller animal whimpered, hiding behind the larger one. In that instant, the story of survival grew deeper. It was not just one heart searching for love, it was two, bound together by desperation, ready to fight for each other. The day had barely settled when trouble arrived. A man with a harsh face and a heavy stride stepped into the alley, his boots thudding against the pavement. The dog stiffened instantly, placing itself between Emma and the smaller animal. The man sneered, his voice rough as gravel. "Strays," he muttered, kicking a can aside with careless cruelty. The sound rattled like a warning, echoing through the narrow passage. The smaller creature whimpered, pressing against the scarred dog's leg. Emma rose quickly, her eyes narrowing with alarm, but the man's gaze held only contempt. He took another step forward, his shadow stretching menacingly over the frightened animals. The dog growled low, a rumble from deep within its chest, a sound that cut the silence like a blade. It was no longer running, it was ready to fight. The man laughed coldly, his voice echoing like broken glass. "You're nothing but pests," he spat, raising his boot as if to strike. The dog snarled, stepping forward, its eyes burning with defiance. Emma shouted, "Stop," her voice trembling yet fierce. The kitten cried out, a tiny desperate sound that pierced the moment. The man ignored her plea, his face hard as stone, but the dog lunged, its body a wall of fury. For the first time, the cruelty that once crushed it was answered with resistance. Loyalty had transformed into shield, and fear into weapon. The alley shook not with violence alone, but with the rise of a protector unwilling to yield. The clash was sudden, a storm of movement in the narrow alley. The man stumbled back as the dog snapped, forcing him to retreat a step. Anger twisted his face, and he swung his arm in rage, striking the animal across its head. The sound cracked like thunder. The dog reeled but did not fall, its growl deepening, body crouched low and ready. Emma gasped, her hands trembling as she moved closer. The kitten whimpered, pressing into shadow. The man cursed under his breath, fury burning in his eyes, but for the first time he looked uncertain. The dog stood firm, scarred muzzle lifted defiantly, as though saying, "You will not harm them." Its loyalty carved courage from pain, stronger than any blow. From the far end of the alley, another sound broke through. The slow, steady steps of an old stray. Its fur was graying, its body weathered, but its eyes glowed with wisdom. The older animal watched, silent yet commanding, as though it had seen such cruelty before. The scarred dog turned its head slightly, meeting the elder's gaze. In that look was guidance, a reminder that strength was not just in teeth but in resolve. The older animal gave a low bark, calm but firm, a call to endure. The younger dog steadied, its growl deepening into something more controlled. Emma noticed too, her breath slowing as she whispered, "You're not alone." The alley now felt less like a trap, and more like the stage for resilience to rise. The standoff held the air in suspense. The man's sneer faltered as the scarred dog advanced a step, muscles taut, every movement echoing defiance. Behind it, the kitten peeked out, its trembling body finding courage in its protector. Emma's voice rang clear, sharper now. "Leave them," she commanded, her eyes locked on the man with unyielding resolve. The older stray barked again, and the sound resonated like judgment. The man cursed, his anger unraveling into frustration. He kicked another can, the noise shattering the moment, then spat on the ground before turning away. His retreat carried venom, but his presence faded into the distance. The alley fell quiet again, though the echo of danger lingered. Yet in the silence remained something greater, unity, strength, and the first taste of victory. The alley lay still after the man's retreat, but in that silence, Emma's gaze fell on the scarred dog. She crouched slowly, whispering, "You're not just a stray, are you?" Her eyes lingered on the worn leather collar, barely hidden beneath tangled fur. The buckle was broken, but etched into the faded strap was a name, faint, scratched, yet still legible. Her breath caught as she traced the letters with her fingers. The dog flinched, backing a step, but did not run. Emma's voice softened, filled with wonder. "You belonged to someone once." The animal's memory flickered, flashes of uniforms, commands, and loyalty beyond ordinary. This was not a creature without purpose. Its scars told of battles fought, of service, of abandonment. Emma realized she was not staring at a lost dog, but at a protector forgotten, betrayed, and forced to survive alone. Emma's heart raced as she studied the faint markings on the collar. Her hands shook with emotion. "You were trained," she whispered. The dog tilted its head, ears twitching as if the words awakened something deep inside. She placed her grocery bag aside, her voice steadying. "Someone abandoned you, but you're no ordinary stray." The kitten mewed softly, pressing against the dog, and the larger animal lowered its head protectively. Emma's eyes glistened as she understood. This wasn't just survival instinct. This was a guardian spirit forged by duty. Somewhere in its past it had been more than just a companion. It had been a shield. That truth hit her harder than she expected. This was no lost soul. This was a forgotten warrior. The dog's eyes narrowed as distant footsteps echoed again, its instincts sharp, body shifting into alert stance. Emma froze, watching how naturally it scanned the alley, ears raised, posture commanding. This wasn't panic, it was training resurfacing. She whispered, "You've done this before." The dog stepped forward, bodyguarding both Emma and the kitten without hesitation. Every movement spoke of discipline buried beneath scars. It crouched low, scanning the shadows with silent precision. Emma placed a hand over her mouth, whispering, "You were once someone's protector." A wave of sorrow rippled through her. Whoever had owned this dog once betrayed not just loyalty, but service. Yet, standing here now, it was clear. Its purpose wasn't lost, only waiting to be reborn. The older stray stepped closer, its graying muzzle catching the light. It barked once, low and firm, like a teacher correcting a pupil. The scarred dog glanced back, meeting its gaze. In those tired eyes was knowledge, urging it forward, reminding it what it was meant to be. Emma looked between them, realizing the bond, one carrying wisdom of age, the other carrying the fire of survival. The scarred dog straightened, growl fading into controlled silence. It no longer shook with fear. Emma whispered, "You're more than what they left behind." The kitten nestled closer, safe in the circle of protection. For the first time since its betrayal, the dog carried itself not as abandoned, but as chosen, by fate, by loyalty, by the family it had just found. The revelation burned like fire through the silence. Emma reached out again, her voice stronger now. "You weren't just thrown away, you were betrayed." The dog lowered its head, pressing its scarred muzzle briefly against her hand. Her heart swelled as tears blurred her vision. The kitten mewed, climbing onto the dog's paw as if claiming safety. The older stray barked once more, its voice carrying finality, before turning and limping away into the fading light. Emma whispered, "You're meant to protect." The dog's eyes glowed, no longer empty, but alive with purpose. Betrayal had forged something stronger, the rebirth of a guardian. Evening fell, when danger returned. The man stormed back into the alley, rage sharper than before. His shouts echoed, rattling windows, sending birds scattering. Emma stepped forward, shielding the dog and kitten. "Enough!" she cried, her voice defiant. The man sneered, grabbing a broken pipe from the ground. "This ends now," he growled. The scarred dog's body tensed, muscles coiled, eyes locked on the threat. Emma's heart pounded, her breath sharp and uneven, but she refused to move. The kitten whimpered, crawling behind the dog's legs. The man advanced, pipe raised, fury in every step. The alley darkened, shadows stretching like claws. The dog growled, a thunderous sound that shook the silence. This was not retreat. This was war. The man swung the pipe with brutal force, but the dog leapt, intercepting with fearless precision. The clash rang out, metal scraping concrete as the strike missed. The dog snapped, teeth grazing the man's sleeve, forcing him back. Fury burned in the man's eyes, but fear cracked beneath his anger. Emma shouted, "Stop this!" her voice trembling but unbroken. The kitten hissed faintly, its tiny courage echoing the defiance of its protector. The man roared, swinging again, but the dog dodged, circling with sharp instincts. Training once buried, now erupted, every movement honed for battle. For the first time, the balance shifted. The man wasn't hunting anymore. He was being confronted by something he couldn't break. The alley roared with chaos. The man struck again, pipe glancing across the dog's shoulder, but the animal didn't falter. Pain flared, yet it growled louder, eyes blazing with fury. Emma screamed, "No!" but the dog lunged, knocking the weapon from his grip. Metal clattered against stone, echoing like a final bell. The man stumbled, fear finally cracking through his rage. The scarred dog stood tall, body braced between danger and family. The kitten peeked out, its trembling frame softening as it saw courage embodied. Emma's chest heaved, tears spilling, her voice breaking. "You're a hero," she whispered. The dog's ears twitched, never breaking its gaze from the man. This wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a fight for dignity, loyalty, and redemption. The older stray appeared again, limping to the edge of the alley. Its bark echoed like a call of judgment. The scarred dog turned, meeting its gaze once more. In that moment, strength flowed not from fury but from wisdom. It stepped forward, slow but unyielding, pushing the man further back with each growl. Emma shouted, "Leave!" her voice rising above the chaos. The man stumbled, fear in his eyes, rage dissolving into cowardice. The older stray's bark grew louder, a chorus with the younger dog's growl, a united voice of defiance. The alley no longer belonged to cruelty. It belonged to loyalty, to courage, to guardianship. The man's retreat was no longer delayed. It was demanded. The man cursed, spitting on the ground, then turned sharply, retreating into the night. His footsteps faded, swallowed by the shadows. The alley fell silent except for Emma's shaky breaths and the faint mew of the kitten. The scarred dog stood tall, chest rising and falling, eyes glowing in the dim light. Emma rushed forward, dropping to her knees, wrapping her arms around the animal's neck. "You saved us," she whispered, tears running freely. The dog pressed its scarred muzzle against her shoulder, a silent vow renewed. The kitten curled at their feet, purring faintly, finally calm. The older stray lingered at the edge, its wise gaze approving. In the silence of victory, something unshakable was born, a family forged not by blood, but by loyalty and sacrifice. The night slowly surrendered to dawn, soft light breaking across rooftops. Emma sat with the scarred dog beside her, her hand resting gently on its neck. The kitten purred faintly, curled against his paw. Emma whispered, "You're safe now." Her voice trembled but carried relief. The dog leaned into her touch, scarred muzzle pressing against her palm, eyes no longer clouded with fear but with quiet trust. The alley that once reeked of cruelty now felt like a place of survival and rebirth. Birds chirped faintly, welcoming the morning. The older stray, standing at the edge, gave a low bark, then turned to leave, its purpose fulfilled. Emma called softly, "Thank you," though she knew it wouldn't stay. The scarred dog watched it go, standing taller than before. Loyalty had not died, it had simply found a new home. Emma led them out of the alley, the sunlight spilling across the street. Her steps were steady, though her heart still carried the weight of fear. The dog walked close, shoulders brushing her leg, his protective stance unwavering. The kitten followed carefully, tail high but tiny steps, hesitant. People passed by glancing at the trio, some pausing with curiosity, others shaking their heads. Emma ignored their looks, her focus firm on the animals beside her. She whispered softly, "We'll start fresh." The dog's ears twitched as though it understood. The scars on his body were no longer marks of shame, but badges of survival. The kitten chirped faintly, pressing against his leg. For the first time, they were no longer strays. They were a family moving towards something greater. Emma opened the door to her modest home, sunlight spilling into the small living room. She guided the dog and kitten inside, her heart swelling with warmth. The dog sniffed cautiously, paws pressing softly against the wooden floor, tail flicking with curiosity. The kitten padded close, mewing softly, then curled onto a rug near the door as if it had always belonged. Emma knelt, patting the dog's head gently. "Welcome home," she whispered, voice filled with promise. The dog's eyes softened, its scar catching the light as it leaned into her hand. This wasn't just shelter, it was belonging. For the first time in what felt like forever, the air carried peace. The battles were not erased, but here, healing could begin. The dog lay stretched across the rug, chest rising steadily, its eyes half closed in calm. The kitten snuggled against its side, purring in contentment. Emma sat nearby, her gaze fixed on them, her heart full. But in the quiet peace, the scars told their story. The dog twitched faintly in its sleep, haunted by dreams of betrayal and struggle. Emma reached out, smoothing its fur gently. "You're safe," she whispered, as if her voice could soothe even memories. The kitten stirred, shifting closer to the scarred muzzle. Together, they formed a fragile picture of survival turned sanctuary. The shadows of the past had not vanished, but they no longer defined them. Pain was still there, but so was healing. And for the first time the future seemed possible. Evening painted the home in shades of amber, as Emma sat by the window, watching the scarred dog guard the door. The kitten slept quietly on a cushion, small body rising and falling in steady rhythm. The dog's eyes glowed faintly, scanning every sound, ears twitching with vigilance. Its body carried scars, but now it carried purpose too. Emma whispered softly, more to herself than to them, "We're safe." She pressed her hand against her heart, realizing it was true. Outside the world still held cruelty, but inside this small home, loyalty had built a fortress. The protector had not only found a family, it had created one. And within that family, even the deepest wounds could begin to heal. The following morning broke bright and clear, the sky painted in soft blue and gold. Emma opened the door, stepping outside with the scarred dog by her side, and the kitten following closely. The fresh air carried promise, free from fear. Neighbors paused, watching the trio pass, curiosity in their eyes, but Emma only smiled. The dog's scar caught the sunlight, gleaming not as a mark of pain, but as a symbol of resilience. The kitten trotted happily, tail swaying, eyes wide with wonder at the world beyond the alley. Emma whispered, "This is your world now," her voice filled with quiet triumph. Together, they walked into a day no longer haunted by the past, but shining with possibility. They reached a park where grass glistened with dew, sparkling like diamonds beneath the sun. Children played in the distance, their laughter echoing with joy. The scarred dog watched carefully, ears twitching, but its stance was calm, protective rather than afraid. The kitten pounced at the grass playfully, finally free to act like the child it was. Emma sat on a bench, her eyes glowing as she watched them. The world seemed to pause, giving them this small moment of peace. After all they had endured, this was their reward, not perfection, but freedom. The scars of the past had not disappeared, but in this moment, they no longer mattered. Love had transformed pain into something powerful, something lasting. The dog sat beneath a tree, its gaze steady on Emma and the kitten. Its body no longer trembled with fear, its scars no longer shackled it. Emma walked over, crouching beside it, whispering softly, "You saved us." The dog pressed its head against her hand, eyes closing in calm acceptance. The kitten hopped onto her lap, curling into a ball, its tiny purr vibrating against the silence. The three of them formed a circle of belonging. Emma's heart swelled, her tears glistening in the sunlight. "You're home now," she whispered again, more certain than ever. In that simple moment, they weren't survivors anymore. They were family. A family built from trust, sacrifice, and unwavering loyalty. The sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and violet. Emma stood with the dog and kitten at her side, watching the horizon. The dog's silhouette was noble against the fading light, chest proud, eyes alive. The kitten climbed onto a rock, mewing softly, its voice filled with innocent joy. Emma whispered, "We made it," her words carrying both relief and triumph. The scarred dog lifted its head, letting out a single deep bark that echoed across the park. It was not a sound of warning, but of victory. The weight of betrayal had transformed into strength, and that strength now stood unshaken by the past. Their story was no longer one of loss, but of survival crowned with hope. Night descended slowly, the stars blooming across the sky. In the quiet of Emma's home, the final scene unfolded. The scarred dog lay curled at the foot of her bed, breathing deeply, eyes finally at peace. The kitten rested beside him, tiny body tucked against his fur, safe and warm. Emma lay with her hand dangling, fingers brushing gently against the dog's back. A smile lingered on her lips, her heart steady and full. The house was silent, but it was not empty. It pulsed with loyalty, love, and the healing of wounds once thought unbearable. The story did not end with abandonment. It ended here, with a protector finding its family and a family finding its hero.